Father, we need you so much. There is so much opposition, and Lord, I am not smart enough to come against this enemy. I am not wise enough. I am not powerful enough. Left to my own devices, Lord, I would go astray in seconds, Father. But you are a good, good Father who does not lead us in temptation, but delivers us from evil. Please, Lord, today as we study these verses, deliver us from evil, Father. Deliver us from the evil of our flesh and help us to walk in a right path in Jesus' mighty name. We're still looking at honor, and today we're going to be looking at Numbers 22. So let's jump right into it. Then the sons of Israel journeyed and camped in the plains of Moab beyond the Jordan opposite Jericho. Now Balak, the son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. So Moab was in great fear because of the people, for they were numerous, and Moab was in dread of the sons of Israel. Moab said to the elders of Midian, "Now this horde will lick up all that is around us, as the ox lips up the grass of the field." And Balak the son of Zippor was king of Moab at that time. So he sent messengers to Balaam the son of Beor at Pethor, which is near the river, in the land of the sons of his people, to call him, saying, "Behold, a people came out of Egypt. Behold, they cover the surface of the land, and they are living opposite me. Now therefore, please come and curse this people for me, since they are too mighty for me. Perhaps I may be able to defeat them and drive them out of the land. For I know that he whom you bless is blessed, and he whom you curse is cursed." So what's going on is the Israelites are moving towards and into the promised land. And on their way, they're going by Moab. Now, God has specifically told them, do not go into the land of Moab. He specifically said, you can't go in there unless they let you. So they asked the Moabites, can we go into your land? And they said no. Why? Because Moab is a descendant of Abraham's nephew Lot. And also they couldn't go mess with the Edomites because the Edomites are descended from Esau. But Moab doesn't know that. So the king of Moab goes and he looks and he's like, these guys are too powerful for me. If they decide to attack me, we're done. Wait, I've got a solution. So there's this Gentile priest. We don't know if he's a priest. We don't know what he is. He seems like a prophet. He certainly prophesies in chapter 23. 22 and 23, he prophesies. So he's a Gentile prophet who knows the God of Israel, as we're about to see. And what the king knows about him is that whomever he blesses is blessed, and whomever he curses is cursed. So a blessing is really something good happening as a result, in the biblical sense. When you were blessed, it's because there was a spiritual being that was putting favor on you. So the blessing of the Lord was that God, the ultimate spiritual being, was placing blessing upon you. A curse in the Bible is because God, the ultimate spiritual being, is placing bad things on you. And so this guy, whomever he blesses is blessed, and whomever he curses is cursed. So he sends his leaders there. So the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian departed with the fees for divination in their hand, and they came to Balaam and repeated Balak's words to him. He said to them, "Spend the night here, and I will bring back to you as the Lord may speak to me, and I will bring word back to you as the Lord may speak to me." And the leaders of Moab stayed with Balaam. Then God came to Balaam and said, "Who are these men with you?" Balaam said to God, "This is the God of the Jews, this is the God of Israel, this is the Lord." "Who are these men with you?" Balaam said to God, "Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab, has sent word to me. Behold, there is a people who came out of Egypt. They cover the surface of the land now. Come, curse them for me. Perhaps I may be able to fight against them and drive them out." God said to Balaam, "Do not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed." So Balaam arose in the morning and said to Balak's leaders, "Go back to your land, for the Lord has refused to let me go with you." This was good, right? So remember, we've talked about how one way you can honor someone is by doing what they've asked you to do. And so Balaam is doing what God has asked him to do. Let's see what happens next. Then Balak again sent leaders, more numerous and more distinguished than the former. So last time he sent a couple senators. This time he sends some senators and the joint chiefs and a brigadier general. He's sending more distinguished people, which is an honor, right? The higher the rank the people, the more honor it is for Balaam that they're coming to him. They came to Balaam and said to him, "Thus says Balak the son of Zippor, let nothing, I beg you, hinder you from coming to me. For I will indeed honor you richly, and I will do whatever you say to me. Please come then, curse this people for me. Now we get the word honor. This is how we got to this verse. For I will indeed honor you richly. The richly probably refers to wealth. And I will do whatever you say to me. Balaam replied to the servants of Balak, though Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold, I could not do anything, either small or great, contrary to the command of the Lord my God. This is good, right? Sticking with God. Yes, this is great. I'm shocked that there's a Gentile, and the only reason is we don't see revelation too much to the Gentiles. We see it to the Jewish people. So somehow Balaam knows about God. Somehow he's obedient to God. This would also be why whenever he blesses someone, they're blessed. Whenever he curses someone, they're curses. Because if he's going to curse someone or bless somebody, it's because the Lord is speaking to him. Or at least that's what I would surmise. Because that's what's happening here, right? So God came to, but then let's follow the story out. Now, this is verse 19. Now, Balaam is still speaking. Now, please, you also stay here tonight, and I will find out what else the Lord will speak to me. God came to Balaam at night and said to him, if the men have come to call you, rise up and go with them, but only the word which I speak to you, you shall do. So Balaam arose in the morning and saddled his donkey and went with the leaders of Moab. But God was angry because he was going, and the angel of the Lord took his stand in the way as an adversary against him. Now he was riding on his donkey, and his 2 servants were with him. So this is what really stuck out to me. And this was the question I had. And first, though, so what happens the rest of the story? So the rest of the story is he gets on his donkey, and the angel of the Lord is going to kill Balaam because God is angry at Balaam. So the first time, the donkey goes off into a field. The next time, there's this path, and there's a wall over here, and the angel's over here. So the donkey goes over here and has to press Balaam's ankle up against the wall. So imagine a donkey riding, and your ankle is just being driven up against a rock wall. And then the third time, there's just no way through. You either got to go straight to the angel or stop. So the donkey just sits, and Balaam hits the donkey. And then God opens the donkey's mouth. The donkey speaks to Balaam, and then God opens Balaam's eyes, and he sees the angel of the Lord. And then he goes, and he goes with the intention of cursing Israel, because that's what the king's asking him to do. But only words of blessing come out, and he prophesies. They're very prophetic, messianic blessings. They are prophetic about Jesus. And he, 3 times he goes, and he prophesies. And so here's my question, though. Why is God mad at Balaam? At the end of the day, Balaam only speaks what God tells him to speak. Why is he mad at Balaam? Why is he mad at him? Well, we're going to start with the text that's in front of us, and then we're going to look at some other verses to understand, and we're going to draw ourselves back to how does this relate to honor. So the first thing is this. God already gave Balaam a command. In verse 12, he says, God said to Balaam, do not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed. And Balaam did what God told him to do, sent him away. So why did Balaam go in verse 19 and say, now please, you also stay here tonight, and I will find out what else the Lord will speak to me? Why? Why does he do this? So we get the answer in 2 Peter 2:15 through 16. Now, I'm going to show you how I think, because we don't get this out of the Old Testament directly, but it's definitely here. And what I mean by that is this. The New Testament is commenting on something that I don't see directly in the Old Testament, per se. But actually, sorry, and so let's keep going here. So 2 Peter 2:15 through 16 says this, forsaking the right way, they have gone astray, having followed the way of Balaam, the son of Beor, who loved the wages of unrighteousness. But he received a rebuke for his own transgression. For a mute donkey, speaking with the voice of a man, restrained the madness of the prophet. This is really important information. Now, first of all, the Bible calls him a prophet, so let's just be clear about that. This is really important information because it allows us to analyze what's going on here. God gave Balaam a command. The command was, do not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed. This is now, I don't have this directly out of the text, but here's what I think based on the other text that we just read and the other text we're about to go through. Balaam loves the wages of unrighteousness. Unrighteousness means that which is not in conformance with justice. God's told him, don't curse this people because they're blessed. And why would he go back? Well, it's the same reason I kept going back to God. So there's a mentor of mine, a friend of mine, a leader of mine, who God has blessed him to be both a ministry leader and a businessman. And his heart is to run businesses, to develop wealth for the kingdom of God. And there was one point where God was very clear with me, very, very clear with me, and said, you are not to do business with him. And it wasn't, and God didn't say it as if he's wrong for what he's doing. It's God was giving me a command, like with Balaam, don't do business with him. And I kept wanting to do business, and I kept coming back to him wanting to do business, and I've prayed about it before, and I almost felt like the Lord was like, go do business with him. And yet I never had peace about it. And eventually, the Lord spoke to me and said, if you go do business with him, you will become completely distracted from ministry. And he's absolutely right. If I were to go do business with this leader of mine, I'd still do ministry. But I would become completely distracted from having ministry be the number one focus in my life. But here was my problem. Here was my transgression. God gave me a command. It was clear. It was blunt. It was straightforward. He even had me sign, I don't have the Bible anymore, but he actually had me sign a verse in my Bible as a commitment that I will not do business with this friend of mine. And I kept pressing against it. I kept pushing against it. I almost went and did it. And I almost went and did business with him. The thing about God is, and this happens in other places, we see this when the people of Israel ask God for meat. Well, they complain, and they test God, and he gives them meat. And when they're eating the meat, God gets mad and he judges them. What's going on? God respects free will. I think what's happening here, and we're going to go read some other verses, is I think that God knew Balaam's heart. God knew what was going on inside the man's heart. And two things are going on here. One, he knows the guy will only speak what he tells him to. We see that later in the end of chapter 22 and in chapter 23. As a matter of fact, the king of Moab gets angry at Balaam because he's like, I brought you here to curse them, and all you're doing is blessing them. And that's because he's only speaking the words of God. So God's going to use this as an opportunity to bring forth prophecy and to bring forth blessing upon his people. But he also knows that Balaam's going to go. Balaam's going to go. I mean, get this. And how do we know that? So God sends the angel of the Lord to kill Balaam. And when Balaam can see the angel of the Lord, he's not like, dude, I never should have come. And so he says, so in verse 31 it says, then the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way with his sword drawn in his hand, and he bowed all the way to the ground. The angel of the Lord said to him, why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? Behold, I have come out as an adversary, because your way was contrary to me. But the donkey saw me and turned aside from these 3 times. If she had not turned aside from me, I would have surely have killed you just now, and let her live. Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, I have sinned, for I did not know that you were standing in the way against me. Now then, if it is displeasing to you, I will turn back. Oh my word! I'm like, if it's displeasing to you, God, and how does God respond? But the angel of the Lord said, go with the men, but you shall speak only the word which I tell you. If it's displeasing to you, it's a narrative. So I don't have a direct answer to what I'm about to say, but here's what I'm getting out of the text. Yes, it was displeasing to God. Yes, it is not pleasing to the Lord, and I'm upset at myself. Yes, it is not pleasing to God when he gives me a command, and I push against it, and I press against it, and I fight against it. And then, who are the donkeys in your life? That may sound funny. Who are the donkeys in your life? that can see what is going on. Now, why do I say donkeys? It's very important because when I can't see what's going on, when I can't see what's happening in front of me, I had this recently happen to me. When I can't see what's happening in front of me and somebody else does, and they're trying to pull me this way or pull me that way, or they speak to me. In verse 28, and the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey, and she said to Balaam, what have I done to you that you've struck me these 3 times? Then Balaam said to the donkey, because you've made a mockery of me. If there had been a sword in my hand, I would have killed you by now. The donkey said to Balaam, am I not your donkey on which you've ridden all your life to this day? Have I ever been accustomed to do so to you? And he said, no. Then the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam. So, who are the donkeys in my life that are trying to protect me from what, yes, is against the way of the Lord? I mean, come on, we've got a command. The command is do not go with them. You shall not curse the people for their blessed. We have it from 2 Peter, and tomorrow we're going to go through some more verses because there's more to talk through here. But we've got it in other verses how he does end up cursing the people. He does end up disobeying God, not through prophetic word, but by teaching Balaam how to get the people to curse themselves. So he does bring a curse upon the Israelites, and there's a consequence for it. But here's the thing for us this morning, and here's my struggle. For me, with my struggle with wanting to do business, it was the Spirit of the living God, and it was my wife. It was the Spirit of the living God tugging on me, not giving me peace, pulling me in the direction that I did, pulling me in an opposite direction. It was my wife saying, didn't God tell you can't do business with him? Didn't the Lord say that? And it should have been enough for me to just obey God. And then one day maybe God would have said, you've been obedient, and I want to share why it's good that you're not doing business, because you become completely distracted. As a matter of fact, I hit a spot where an offer was made to me to do business with this friend of mine again. And to be clear, I hadn't told him yet that God told me no. He was trying to bless me. He was trying, his heart is, let me run businesses so I can hire people and that they can get either become owners or get paid at a level where they have more time to do ministry. That's his heart and his desire. He wanted to bless me. And I said, I'm going to seriously pray. I told him what the Lord had told me. I said what God had said to me. I told him what God had told me. And then he talked to me about doing business. And I said, I'm going to go seriously pray about this. That night he sent me a text and said, I've been thinking about what you said. Let's just do ministry together. I was Balaam, hearing God's voice, walking in God's ways. Would I have used the money for the kingdom? Hopefully. Would I have gotten mentored by this ministry of mine? Absolutely. Would I have become completely distracted from ministry as my number one focus? Absolutely. There were donkeys in my life, and I wasn't paying attention to them. I wasn't listening to them. I wasn't asking questions. I had it happen again recently. There was a certain situation, and there's a mentor, there's a spiritual mother of mine who was like, I've got concerns about this thing you're doing. I have concerns about how you're interacting with this person. And I just thought they're anti the person. I just thought they were just being a downer. You know what I was doing? I wasn't saying this to the person, but I was beating my donkey. I was like, what's the deal? What's the struggle? Why do they have a problem? And I didn't have peace. God kept bringing it to my mind. So the Lord's pulling on me. The Spirit's pulling on me. My mentor's pulling on me. And then my mentor shared something with me. Well, actually what happened is something got shared with my wife that got shared with me. And that got me to sit down and go talk to God. And the Lord showed me some things. And I was like, oh, that would have pulled me out of the direction. That would have pulled me in a wrong way. That would have caused problems with the relationships I have. Wow. So this morning, as we look at honor, today what we're looking at is Balaam was seeking after an honor. We're going to get in this tomorrow. But here's the question today. Balaam says, if it's displeasing to you, I will turn back. He's not honoring God. 2 Peter tells us that he loved the wages of unrighteousness. He's not honoring God right now. God's about to use him, but he's not honoring God. Where are the places, and I don't know why, where are the places in my life this morning where God has given me a command, God has given me a direction, God has given me a directive, and I'm pushing against it. I'm pressing against it. I'm fighting against it. Where are those places? And let's spend some time this morning repenting. Let's spend some time this morning seeking God. And Father, forgive me for how often I press against and transgress your commands. How often I sin against your commands. How often I am iniquitous towards the things you've said to me. And Lord, you say them for the benefit of others, for my own benefit. We're going to see tomorrow, Lord, what happens to Balaam, and his relationship with you ends. I just want a good relationship with you, God. I just want a near and close relationship to you, Lord. So, Father, we cry out in the name of Jesus. Please help us, God. Please help us, Lord. In Jesus' mighty name.